Well, good morning, everybody. Welcome back to Living Traditions Homestead. We are getting an early start on everything today because we are going to be under a heat advisory pretty much for the whole next week.
So in order to beat the heat, we're working early in the morning until about lunchtime so that when it gets super hot, we can be inside doing inside things.
Right.
And then again, in the evening, when it cools off, we can come back out and work again, do the chores, that kind of thing. But that is the plan for the next week or whenever really it's going to be super hot.
Right. So today we have a project that we want to get started on. There's no way we're going to finish it today, but we thought we'd bring you guys along. You may remember that for Mother's Day this year, I surprised Sarah by buying her some Silkie chicks. Silkies are a bantam, kind of fluffy chicken. They don't serve a whole lot of a purpose, but Sarah really likes them, and they're fun to have around.
Now, in my defense, it's not that they're just pretty. Bantam chickens and these Silkies go broody, or they want to hatch eggs, so that's actually a really good thing to have on the homestead when we're trying to be a little bit more self-sufficient.
So I guess that's their purpose.
Yes.
That's their purpose.
That is their purpose, but plus they're really cute.
So today, we're going to start building them a hoop coop.
Yep.
You guys have seen our other hoop coops that we use. Right now, those Silkie chicks are still in our brooder barn down at the homestead, not here at the farm property. And they've basically been living indoors this entire time. Now, that was mostly on purpose because they're so little and they grow so much slower. We needed to protect them longer than we would normal chickens. But it's time for them to finally have a place to come outside and start living outside.
So that's what we're working on today, but first we are actually going to take you guys along. We're going to go look for the cows. Just yesterday we put our bull in with our cows.
Now that is a little bit late getting him in. We would have liked to have him in with them really by the beginning of June, and now we're first getting him in at the beginning of July. But you guys, sometimes that's just how things work on the homestead. Between things that have been going on that we talked with you guys about in the last video, Sarah and I had COVID. My parents have been having health issues. Things have just gotten, messed up for the last month. But the real reason is that we bought a new squeeze chute for our cows, for our cattle. And we were in the middle of getting that set up when Sarah and I got sick and when all this other stuff happened. So we never got it set up in time. And we really wanted to be able to vaccinate Tex before we put him in with the cows this year. So we wanted to wait until we had that all done. Well, we got that corral system and the squeeze chute and everything set up. So yesterday we were finally able to run him through that, catch him, vaccinate him, and then we released him out into the area that the cows are at.
At the time that we released him, the cows were not up close to us. So we saw him, running off into the sunset, basically out there looking for his cows. So we're pretty sure that he found them, but we do want to go find them and make sure that all is well in cow land. And Tex has found his ladies and nature is going the way it should be going. Right.
So let's hop in the UTV. We're going to go for a little ride and we're going to see if we can find everybody this morning and make sure things are going well. Well, it didn't take us very long to find them. You can see right ahead is some of them, and Tex is here with them, so looks like he's having a good morning. And I do hear some of the other cattle up on the hillside over here. I can see a few of them out grazing, so we're going to try to just count everybody, make sure everybody is here that's supposed to be here, and then we'll be able to move on with our project. Well, it looks like all of the cows and techs are doing great, so it's time to finally get started building this hoop coop. This is the area that we've decided we're going to build this on. We're going to build this one the same size as the one that we built for our ducks, which is 7 feet wide, 8 feet long. I think that'll be plenty big for these bantam chickens. That will be a good size because they'll just use 2 cattle panels. And if you guys have purchased cattle panels anytime recently, you know that they are ridiculously priced right now. The cattle panels that we're going to be using are 50 inches wide and 16 feet long. That should give us a hoop coop that when we walk in, we should be able to walk in without ducking. It should be at least 6 feet tall. I think that's going to be a good size, so let's get started.
Just to give you guys some perspective as to where we are, we're building this new coop inside our barn lot, which is near our dairy barn. Over across the driveway here, that is where the duck coop and the chicken coop is, and the chicken moat around the garden area and orchard. So these silkies are not going to be kept within the chicken moat area. We're actually going to allow them to free range, and you know, I think they'll pretty much stick around here into the barn lot. You can see that just if you pan over here, we're in the barn lot next to the dairy barn. So just wanted to give you kind of some perspective as to where we're building this and where these bantam chickens are going to be.
All right, so we're going to get started. The first thing we're going to do is build kind of the base of this that we'll actually, you know, use to hoop the cattle panels up with. We're going to be building this out of pressure treated 2x4s. Believe it or not, right now, pressure treated 2x4s are less expensive than just standard 2x4s, which I don't know why that is, but it's been that way for quite a while. So we're going to be using pressure treated for pretty much everything on this project. Now, one thing I wanted to tell you guys, like I said, we're making this 8 foot long by 7 foot wide. I went to the hardware store, I bought 8 foot 2x4s, but you always want to check the length on your 2x4s when you buy them, especially recently. I've noticed that sizes are not as accurate as they used to be, but these 2x4s are a little over 8 feet long, so I'm actually going to cut these to 8 feet because not only are they over 8 feet long, but they're all different sizes. So we're going to cut these to 8 feet so we know we're actually making the size that we want. So that's the first thing that we're going to do. Now we'll see how far we can get on this project this morning. You guys, it's not even 9 a.m. and it's already in the 90s with the humidity. It is terrible out here. So we're going to see how far we can get. I'm hoping we can get at least a couple hours into this project, but it is already brutal out here. And I don't know what it is, but ever since Sarah and I had COVID, it just seems like my body just can't take the heat like it did before. Maybe it's still some residual just getting over that. I don't know, but we need to play it safe and not be dumb with how much we stay out in this heat. All right, so we're going to cut this at 8 feet. All right, and now for our 2 7-footers, or the width of the hoop coop. Now, because we're going to be putting this on the inside of the other 2x4s, those will actually add 3 inches, 1.5 inches on each side. So we need to cut this board at 6 foot 9 inches. And we'll do that for both sides. Now we're going to be combining this base with what's called pocket holes. If you guys aren't familiar with that, basically a pocket hole is, we're just going to drill a hole that goes kind of at an angle in this board so that when we're connecting these, like when we're connecting these 2 boards together, we don't need to drill or we don't need to screw into the end grain on these boards, which isn't a very strong connection. Instead, we'll be able to drill through this way and we'll be on the face of each board. Hopefully that makes sense. Basically, for a pocket hole, you can buy one of these little tools like this. There's expensive ones, there's cheap ones. This is a cheap one, but I've had it for years and it works great. What you'll do, and I already have my marks just on here so I don't have to measure every time, is we'll mark a spot here. We'll be doing 2 pocket holes on the end of each of these boards. Once you've got your marks on, you take your jig here. You can use a clamp. Just clamp that into place. Then you can take your drill bit. And you drill until you get to this little stopper on here. And basically what that did is that made a nice little hole in your piece of wood here. So when we get ready to screw, we can put our screw in just like that. So we'll do this. We're going to put 2 on the end of each board, on each end of the boards, and then we'll get ready to start putting these together. All right, so we've got our boards laid out basically where they're going to go. Now, because we're working on uneven ground here, it's going to make it a little bit more difficult. We're just going to do the best that we can. On a project like this, it doesn't really matter a whole lot. Now, you can buy special screws to go with the pocket holes. You guys, I never do that. I'm just using 3-inch deck screws. It does help to have a long driver bit for your drill. So we're basically going to put our screw in. We'll line these up the best we can on our uneven ground here. And we'll just go around and we'll screw all 4 corners together. And we'll have our base, and then we'll be just about ready to start hooping up our cattle panels. Now that we've got our frame actually put together, we can start to see what size this hoop coop is actually going to be. The next thing is to put on the cattle panels. We're going to be using 2 cattle panels, and they'll overlap in the middle probably about 4 inches, I think. These cattle panels are 50 inches wide, and we've got 8 feet worth of length here. We're going to actually try to hoop both of these at once. It makes it easier so you don't have to try to overlap them once they're hooped up. There we go.
Ooh, careful, it's popping off over there. Okay.
There we go.
Okay.
There we go, and now you can see the size that this will be. Tall enough to walk inside of. The next thing we're going to do is attach the cattle panels to the frame. We're going to do that with some plumbing hanger. We don't want the cattle panel sitting right on the ground. We want this up a little bit so that if we do ever move this hoop coop, it's just sliding on the 2x4s and not on the cattle panel. So I'll have Sarah hold this up maybe just an inch or so off the ground. And then I will use this plumbing hanger. If you're not familiar with this, I use this for so much stuff around the homestead. It's basically metal, comes on a roll, and you can just cut off pieces of it. In this case, I'll probably just cut off enough, maybe 1.5 inches or so here, like 3 little holes worth. And then I can use that to screw this. It'll go around the cattle panel and it'll screw to the base, and that'll hold it nice and tight. We'll put a few of these on each side, and then we'll be ready to move on to building the front and the back of the hoop coop. So just so you guys can see exactly what I'm going to be doing down here, I've got my little piece of plumbing hanger. And again, on most of these I'll have Sarah hold this up but right now she needs to run the camera. So we'll have this about, you know, about an inch or so off the ground. We'll take a piece of this plumbing hanger and it'll just screw below the cattle panel, and then it'll bend over, and then you can see that that connects the cattle panel to the 2x4s, and it'll hold it nice and tight so there's no way it can come out. Now that the cattle panels are attached to the frame, the next thing we're going to do is start building the front and the back frame. The easiest way to do this is to basically trace your pattern onto your 2x4s. By that, what I mean is we'll take a 2x4, and I know that I want our door opening to be 24 inches wide. So I'm going to take a 2x4 and I'm going to stick it through the cattle panel like this. And then I'm going to take the one that's going to go on the other side and we'll put that over here. And what we can do is we'll make sure that this opening at the top here, I'm pretty sure from the inside to the inside here is going to be 24 inches. So let's check that out. Just under 24 inches, like 23 3/4. So that's fine. So now that we know that the space between our top two here on the inside is 23 3/4, I've also marked 23 3/4 at the bottom. I marked the center of this board, and then I marked it so that we knew where these needed to go to be 23 3/4 inches apart at the bottom. That gives us our overall, you know, this will be the size of our door here. When we actually get ready to attach these, we'll actually put a level on these as well so that we can push these level so that we know, because right now this hoop moves quite a bit. So we'll just try to get those as level as we can. Now remember that this is a chicken coop. The chickens are never going to care if this thing isn't perfect. So don't waste a ton of time trying to get everything perfect. In our case here, we're working on level ground. These cattle panels aren't perfect. I mean, they move. Nothing's going to be perfect in this project, but it is going to be a functional chicken coop when we're done. So now that we've got those standing up there, I'm going to take my pencil, I'm going to trace the top of the cattle panel here. So we know where to cut. And I'm also going to mark these left and right, because again, this arch isn't a perfectly straight arch. It's never going to be on a project like this. So there is going to be a little variance. At least this way we'll know which one went on which side. So we're going to take these down and cut them, and then we'll start attaching. All right, so what I've done is I've brought this over to my chop saw. I've got this adjusted. It looks like it ended up being about a 17-degree angle here. But basically, we're just going to cut on our line. If you don't have a chop saw and you're using a hand saw or a circular saw, you're just going to cut on that line that you just drew when you were over by the cattle panel. And we're cutting a straight line even though it's a hoop. It's just easier to do it that way. All right, we can go start attaching these. So I'm going to just put a screw in the bottom of each one of these to start with. We have them in about the right spot. By putting just one screw, it still allows us to be able to move them, but at least they'll be secured and standing up. Now to attach these to the top, we're going to use the plumbing hanger again. I have found that that is the easiest thing to do on these. We'll just go from the side of our 2x4 here. And then we'll just wrap that around to the top, and we'll put a screw in the top as well, and that'll hold that nice and secure. Just like that. All right, now that we have our uprights attached, I went ahead and I attached our first support brace here on the side, which gives it a lot of stability. I did this off camera, honestly, you guys, because I didn't remember exactly how to do it from building the first one. So I wanted to make sure I was telling you guys the right way to do this. The easiest way to do this is to take a scrap piece of 2x4, and we're going to put that here at the front just as a spacer. Then we're going to take, I took a 2x4, an 8-footer, and cut it in half. So this is 4 feet. We're going to take this and we're going to put it on the side there. And then we're going to hold our 2x4 up like this. I'm going to bring this right to the edge here. And then I'm going to just trace this line here. And that's where we're going to cut this 2x4. If you don't put this spacer in, and you just put this 2x4 like this and measure it, the angle is going to be wrong when you come back to put it in. I'm sure there's some mathematical reason why, but all I know is that's how it is. So you need to put that spacer there when you trace, so when you come back, what we want is this 2x4 to be flush up against this. So I'm going to go and I'm going to cut this with my circular saw, and then we'll attach this side as well. All right, now I'm going to go ahead and attach this. Now, I'll remind you guys again, I know I've said this several times already, we're working with uneven ground here, so this isn't going to be perfect, but it is going to work. There's a phrase that we like to use called homestead perfect, and that's what this is going to be. I've never had a chicken complain yet. All right, I've got this door frame completely put in. That really sturdied up the entire hoop coop. We're basically going to repeat this entire thing at the back side. I'm not going to be able to get to that tonight, you guys. I don't know if you can tell, first of all, we started this video in the morning. We took most of the day to stay inside because it's just so hot. We came back out in the evening to do part of this, but you guys, the sun is starting to set, but it's still almost 90 degrees, and we're at like 75% humidity. It is terrible out here. So we're just having to work in short spurts right now, and it's just gonna slow us down a little bit, but that's as far as we're gonna get on this project for today. Before we leave though, we do want to go over and give you guys an update on the American breast chickens. They just turned 16 weeks old last week. So we want to give you an update on how they're doing.
At the beginning of the year, Kevin and I decided that we wanted to switch over the kind of chickens that we raise here on the homestead. The chickens we had, they were fine chickens. They were great. They were primarily egg layers. We wanted to switch to something that could easily be used for both eggs and as a meat breed. For years and years and years, we have raised Cornish cross chickens for our meat. And they're wonderful. Nothing can beat the amount of meat in a short amount of time that you can get from a Cornish cross chicken. But we really wanted something more sustainable. The last couple of years, it's been difficult to get Cornish cross chicks from the hatcheries. And we didn't want to find ourselves in a position where we couldn't get them and we needed meat chickens. So we looked into a bunch of different meat and egg breeds, dual purpose chicken breeds, and we decided on one that really isn't very popular here in the United States. It's called the breast chicken. It's spelled B-R-E-S-S-E. And it is originally from France. But there was one farm that wanted to import the breast chickens from France to the United States. And those are the lines of the American breast chickens that we have here now on our farm. We chose the American breast chickens because they're a little bit different than the chickens that you typically find here in the United States. They lay very early. They can start laying as early as 16 weeks, which is really uncommon. Most chicken breeds they don't start laying until 6 months. It could be longer for larger breed chickens, so that was very appealing to us. Also, they grow fast. Not quite as fast as the Cornish cross chickens or other hybrid meat chickens, but for a dual purpose chicken, they grow quickly. They are of butcher size at about 16 weeks. Now, these chickens that we have here, these American breast chickens, they are just over 16 weeks. So they should start laying any time now. We have a little bit of work to do with them though. We have way more roosters than we need, and we have 3 hens. So on the next nice day, not when it's so scorching hot and humid and terrible, we will be downsizing our flock by processing the roosters, and those will end up in the freezer. We have 3 hens. We'll keep 2 roosters, 1 for breeding and 1 just as backup. And we'll start expanding our flock. Once they start laying, we will start hatching and increasing the size of our flock. You guys, they're doing fantastic. They're beautiful birds. They have grown out fantastically, and we're really excited to have them on our farm. Now, there is a second breed that you'll probably see mixed in here. They're black and white. Those are not American breast chickens. They are cuckoo Malines. The farm that we got these chicks from said, you know what, you should try a couple of these cuckoo Malines because they could really get big enough to replace turkeys. So we said, okay, you know what, we'll try a few of them. So we do have 2 hens and 1 rooster. We are going to be breeding them as well to see if we like them, maybe as a turkey replacement.
Well, you guys, that's where we're going to end today's video. I don't know how summer is going by you guys, but this has been so far by far the hottest, most humid summer we've had in the 6 years that we've lived here in Missouri. You guys, it is, it's been a hot summer.
What we're just going to have to do is to work smart and work in the early part of the morning and the late part of the evening. We did that today, you guys, and we're still just dragging and struggling so badly working in this heat and humidity. Yeah, it just seems like everything is extreme this year. We'd love to hear from you guys. Is that how it is where you are too? Because we are hearing it from people around different parts of the country. Let us know. Is the weather just weird by you as well this year, or is it just here? We'll see you again soon. We'll bring you the end part of this chicken coop build, and we can move over the Silkie hens from the homestead to the farm. I'm excited about it. You guys, if you're enjoying our videos, make sure that you hit that subscribe button below. And remember, the best way you can help us here on the homestead is just to share our videos on your social media. Until next time, thank you so much for stopping by our homestead. Take care, and God bless. God bless.